Alright, so in this problem, I have 7x to the power of 5 minus 7x is equal to 0. So to solve this, I'm going to first start by factoring out 7. So now I get 7 times x to the power of 5 minus x is equal to 0. Now I can go ahead and divide both sides by 7. So then these two cancel out, and now I'll be left with x to the power of 5 minus x is equal to 0. Now from here, I can go ahead and factor out x. So now I have x times x to the power of 4 minus 1 is equal to 0. And now, this is going to give me two equations. My first is x equals 0, which is a solution. So I have one solution for x already. My second is x to the power of 4 minus 1 is equal to 0. So to solve this, I'm going to first rewrite x to the power of 4 here as x to the power of 2 times 2. And if I have something in the form a to the power of m times n, this is equal to a to the power of m to the power of n. So x to the power of 2 times 2, I can rewrite that as x to the power of 2 to the power of 2. Now if this minus 1, 1 is the same thing as 1 squared, which is equal to 0. And now if I have something in the form a squared minus b squared, this is equal to a plus b times a minus b. So in this case, a is x squared and b is 1. So now I have x squared plus 1 times x squared minus 1. And this is equal to 0. So now this gives me two equations again. I have x squared plus 1 is equal to 0, and I have x squared minus 1 is equal to 0. So for x squared minus 1 equals 0, I add 1 on both sides, so I get x squared is equal to 1, meaning x is equal to positive or negative 1. And for x squared plus 1 equals 0, I get x squared is equal to negative 1, meaning x is equal to positive or negative I. Alright, so in this problem, I have x to the power of x to the power of 4 is equal to 64. So to solve this, I'm going to first start by taking the power of 4 on both sides. So now I have x to the power of x to the power of 4 to the power of 4 is equal to 64 to the power of 4. Now, if I have something in the form a to the power of m to the power of n, this is the same thing as a to the power of n to the power of m. So in this case, x to the power of x to the power of 4 to the power of 4. I can think of x to the power of 4 as m and 4 as n. So if I replace those, if I switch those two, I get x to the power of 4 to the power of x to the power of 4 is equal to 64 to the power of 4. And now 64 here, I can rewrite as 8 squared. So now I have x to the power of 4 to the power of x to the power of 4 is equal to 8 squared to the power of 4. And 8 squared to the power of 4, that's the same thing as 8 to the power of 2 times 4, which is 8 to the power of 8. So I have x to the power of 4 to the power of x to the power of 4 is equal to 8 to the power of 8. And this means that x to the power of 4 is equal to 8, and x is equal to the fourth root of 8. So this is my answer. All right, so in this problem, I have 4 to the power of x plus 4 to the power of x plus 4 to the power of x is equal to 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out 4 to the power of x. So now I have 4 to the power of x times 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equal to 1. Now, if I simplify what's in the parentheses here, I get 4. So now I have 4 to the power of x times 4 is equal to 1. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply these two. So 4 here, this is the same thing as 4 to the power of 1. If I have something in the form a to the power of m times a to the power of n, this is equal to a to the power of m plus n. So in this case, 4 to the power of x times 4 to the power of 1, that's going to equal 4 to the power of x plus 1. And this is equal to 1. So now 1 here, this is the same thing as 4 to the power of 0. So now I have 4 to the power of x plus 1 is equal to 4 to the power of 0. And if I have something in the form a to the power of m is equal to a to the power of n, this means that m is equal to n. So in this case, x plus 1 here is equal to 0. Meaning x is equal to -1. Now, another method we could have done here is, as you see here, we have 4 to the power of x right here, we have 4 to the power of x times 4 is equal to 1. So, what we could have done instead here is divide both sides by 4. So now, I have 4 to the power of x is equal to 1/4, which is the same thing as 4 to the power of -1. So now, remember, if something is in the form a to the power of m is equal to a to the power of n, that means that this is equal to this, meaning x is equal to -1.